Our mission is to forge strong bonds between Americans and their military veteran and first responder heroes through volunteer service projects, acts of gratitude, and meaningful engagements in communities nationwide. That is a nice way of saying bridging divides. Divides that exist by race, by religion, by politics, because people will come together and they'll realize just what I said, that they share the same beliefs and the same values.
First of all, thank you for joining us, Kevin. This is Kevin Schmiegel, the CEO of Operation Gratitude. Can you elaborate a little bit on how Operation Gratitude was started, and was there something specific that inspired you to start the organization?
That's a great question. I think, first of all, I didn't start the organization. I've been the CEO for 3 years. And how the organization started is different for the reason I am with Operation Gratitude today as a 20-year Marine veteran. Our founder, Carolyn Blaszczyk, actually grew up in New York City, and she was deeply impacted by the terrorist attacks of 9/11. And part of the story I love, on September 12th, she went to the Marine Corps recruiter's office in Los Angeles and tried to enlist in the United States Marine Corps. But at the time, she was in her mid-40s and a lawyer by trade, and I'm sure the Marine was very polite in saying she was above the minimum age requirement. So she, undeterred, went to the Army, the Air Force, the Navy recruiters, and heard the same thing. So she decided to give back in a different way and serve in a different way. And she started volunteering at the USO Lounge at LAX, at the airport in LA. And one day, 18 months later, a young soldier walked in, and he was clearly down in the dumps and despondent. And he asked if he could see a chaplain. It was a weekend, there was no chaplain on duty. And Carolyn drew out from him that he had been home on emergency leave. And while he was home for his mother's funeral, his sole surviving parent's funeral, his wife left him, and they had just lost their only infant son to a sudden illness. And he literally had no one. So that story is quite sad, but much good has come out of it. Carolyn went home that afternoon, that night, and she gathered a few of her friends, a few soccer moms, and they went to Costco, they raided their cabinets, and around her dining room table, they assembled the first 4 care packages, which they sent to soldiers in Iraq the day the invasion of Iraq started on March 19th of 2003. Fast forward 6 weeks later, her entire house is flooded with boxes. She couldn't even walk through her living room or dining room or past her kitchen into her bedroom, into her garage, because the community in greater Los Angeles heard about what she was trying to do. And they wanted to show our deployed service members around the globe and in harm's way in places like Iraq and Afghanistan that there were people back home who cared. And fast forward, 17 years later, and on February 29th of 2020, right before the pandemic started, I joined 1,100 volunteers as the CEO of Operation Gratitude in our 35,000 square foot warehouse, where we assembled 15,000 care packages with 600,000 individual items, to include these handmade paracord bracelets in every single one, to include handwritten letters of appreciation from the American people. 15,000 care packages, that started around someone's dining room table. I'm at Operation Gratitude for a different reason. You can see behind me, this sword behind my head. You can see the flag that has probably a couple hundred coins from my time in the military when I deployed to more than 50 countries. That sword is 57 years old. It was carried by my dad. Every Marine Corps officer carries it. My dad served in the 1960s, and the day I was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps, my dad handed that sword to me. I've carried it in parades and ceremonies. And the reason I share that story is my son also followed in his grandfather's footsteps and my father's footsteps and his father's footsteps by enlisting in the United States Marine Corps the day he graduated from high school. And my son Carl is really the reason I'm at Operation Gratitude, at least in part, because my son Carl had the support of a father who went to the recruiter's office with him the day he enlisted. My son Carl had a father who was at his boot camp graduation. And my son Carl certainly got care packages in the mail when he was deployed, and certainly got care packages and letters from his father and his family when he was in the schoolhouse away from home. That is the exception, not the norm, for so many young men and women who serve in our military, like that young soldier who walked into the USO that day and met Carolyn and told his story. The truth is, the thousands of Marines, soldiers, airmen, sailors that I've been around deployed to more than 50 countries, they never got care packages, they never got letters, because when they came in the military, they came to serve our country, but oftentimes they were looking for a better way of life. And when they left their communities, when they left their hometowns, that connection was broken, and they didn't have the same support network that my son Carl has. And that's really why I came to Operation Gratitude a little bit over 3 years ago.
Well, great. First of all, thank you all, your whole family, for your service.
Yes.
And thank you for sharing that with us. Can you tell us a little bit about your possible plans for Operation Gratitude in the next 5 years?
I came to Operation Gratitude for another reason. My life's work since I left the military has been to bridge a divide that exists between civilians and those who serve our nation. In the military, those who served our nation as veterans, and first responders in communities and their families. And that divide is not a lack of appreciation. Operation Gratitude wouldn't have 1 million volunteers nationwide who give back in a hands-on way if it was a lack of appreciation. The civilian, military, and larger civilian service divide is a lack of knowledge and understanding and empathy for what it means to serve. I came to Operation Gratitude to help bridge that divide, because over my 20 years, I saw this disconnectedness between civilians and our military. And the realization is we've been at war for 19 years. And the vision for Operation Gratitude is to go beyond saying thank you for your service, and to create a meaningful connection at the community level where civilians stand side by side, shoulder to shoulder with military families, with veterans and their families, and with first responders and their families in service to their community. And yes, are we making care packages and assembling them for deployed troops overseas or for our heroes here at home? Yes, but it's not just a care package. And it's not just a thank you. That's the start of a conversation that leads to a meaningful connection that creates empathy, understanding, and ultimately builds bridges between those who serve and the citizens they protect in communities across the country. And I believe right now, in a country that's divided, that Operation Gratitude can play a unique role over the next 5 years in bringing communities together through service, through acts of gratitude and kindness, and through making those meaningful connections over and over and over again in communities across the country. And I say that with complete confidence because I've seen it. I've seen it in cities across the country where thousands of people in LA, in places like San Antonio, Jacksonville, Florida, all the way up to DC where I live, Philadelphia, Baltimore, New York, all the way to Nashville and San Diego. In the 16 months leading up to COVID, we had 5,000 people in those communities. Military, veterans, first responders standing side by side with civilian counterparts. They left their differences at the door. They didn't see what made them different. They saw what made them the same. And that was a common bond of service. And it's like magic, right? People from all walks of life. It doesn't matter what their race is, what their religion is, what their politics are. They come to serve together. And in the course of serving together, those civilians standing side by side with our military veterans and first responders and their families realize they share the same neighbors. Their kids go to the same school. And they share the same values based on a common belief and passion for service to make our nation better, service to make our communities better, and service to one another. And listen, if we're going to get out of the condition, the environment that we're in right now, where people are focused on their differences, it's going to be by making those connections at the community level. And that is the vision for Operation Gratitude. So people think about this organization as an organization that just does care packages. People think of this as an organization that says, thank you for your service. That's just the beginning of what we do. That's a means to an end. That's the start of a conversation. Our vision over the next 5 years is to be part of a solution that bridges divides. Our mission is to forge strong bonds between Americans and their military, veteran, and first responder heroes through volunteer service projects, acts of gratitude, and meaningful engagements in communities nationwide. That is a nice way of saying bridging divides. We're going to focus on our mission, right? We're going to focus on our mission, which is bridging the civilian military and civilian service divide. In the process, we will bridge other divides that exist in communities right now. Divides that exist by race, by religion, by politics, because people will come together and they'll realize just what I said, that they share the same beliefs and the same values.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing the passion of the organization. And as you may know, for each face shield we sell, we actually donate one to Operation Gratitude to benefit a first responder. To date, we've pledged and donated 137,338 face shields to Operation Gratitude. And to help share the story about the partnership on our social media channels, we want to ask you a little bit of questions. We're going to record and post them to our YouTube and Facebook channels. And feel free to elaborate and share any other stories or messages to include with them. SA Company recently sent 12,000 face shields to DC to be distributed to National Guardsmen reporting for the presidential inauguration. Can you tell us a little bit about that particular mission?
Yes, so I can tell you about what January of 2021 looked like for Operation Gratitude and the support that SA gave us in a very real and tangible way and the impact that it made. So I think we all thought that at the beginning of this year, we would put a lot of the differences that we see behind us. And there was an attack on our nation's capital that further divided our country. And that was really, as a veteran who served for 20 years, sent me reeling in anger and outrage at what happened here in Washington, D.C. I live 5 miles away. I'm looking out my window as the crow flies. And I can tell you, we took what SA did and other corporations helped us with and other volunteers across the country in writing letters and making these bracelets. And we made a difference here in Washington, D.C. with the donation of 12,000 of your wonderful product. And I want to share this because when the attacks occurred in the nation's capital, within 4 days, we mobilized as an organization and we provided support to 3,800 police officers in Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. We provided support to 25,000 National Guardsmen here in D.C. And you made a difference. And that difference can only be realized in the reaction of those police officers and those National Guardsmen and what Operation Gratitude represents. I will tell you, it made a significant impact. And I speak very candidly about sharing this at the highest levels of leadership and the stories of impact that they share with us. So it made a difference here in DC. And I should share that you also supported police officers in New York City. I was in New York City just a week after the inauguration when we supported those 12,000 National Guardsmen with your support. And these went in care packages for 3,000 police officers in 10 precincts in North Queens in NYPD. 10 precincts, 3,000 police officers, and their crisis response unit, their counterterrorism unit. And I will tell you, when you're part of that, when you see the impact that it makes. And again, I go back to the notion that it's just a care package, because to see our police officers in New York City in particular, tired, fatigued, fed up, and really over the course of the last year, facing challenge after challenge with COVID, with social unrest, with protests, with riots. What that did that day was significant. And that's all because of the support of SA and Americans across the country who donate time, treasure, and talent to make those deliveries possible.
You really shared with us the importance of our partnership, and we appreciate that. It's really touching. Can you tell us a little about the importance of all your partnerships with various companies and how it helps you?
Yes, so Operation Gratitude is a unique nonprofit. We are the largest nonprofit in the country for our hands-on volunteerism in support of military, veterans, and first responders, and in my mind, the most impactful. Last year, in the midst of a global pandemic, we impacted 619,000 deployed troops, veterans, and frontline responders. And when I say frontline responders, I'm talking about 228,000 doctors and nurses in hundreds of hospitals, police officers, firefighters, and EMTs in hundreds of police departments and fire departments across the country. That is only made possible by the generosity and kindness of corporate America, from which we receive tens of millions of individual items across every sector and every industry. We try to make our care packages customized and tailored to the communities that we serve. So when we send your product to a deployed troop, it's with them in mind in places like Afghanistan during the month of January and February and March, and what they're facing in a very cold winter. When I think about the deliveries that we did to the National Guard in DC, what we did to New York Police Department, not only does your product make a difference, but the snack items, the hygiene items that we put in those care packages. And we're very mindful about who we are serving and the impact that we make. On top of this incredible engagement with corporate America, who also gives us volunteers who make bracelets and write letters. We have 17,000 community-based groups across the country, schools, churches, Boy Scout troops, Girl Scout troops, Kiwanis clubs, Rotary clubs, National Charity League. Think about the impact that we're making across the country. And those 17,000 community-based groups representing 1 million grateful Americans donate time, treasure, and talent to make our care packages extra special. Because think about it, when a recipient realizes for the very first time that there's appreciation, and the sense of the word appreciation is not just gratitude, it's understanding, right? It's understanding of their service and sacrifice. When they realize a grateful American took the time to make a bracelet that they can wear on their wrist, when they open thank you letters and they read the appreciation of the American people, they realize that our volunteers have taken the time to serve too. This is the common bond of service that we talk about. And, we are in the very moment creating that first connection, right? We're sparking that bond between our volunteers, who are largely civilians, and our first responders, our military, our veterans, and their families. And that bond, as we come out of COVID, right, and we're able to bring communities together again, like we've done as an organization for 18 years, is going to be realized in face-to-face interactions where those human connections are made. And that's really, really what we're looking forward to more than anything.
That's great. It's like they're really, each of them are giving gifts to each other.
That's exactly right. And what we have to ensure is we go beyond saying thank you. We go beyond gratitude in one direction. So now we're working with our military units, our veteran organizations, and our first responders, our frontline responders, and they can reciprocate gratitude to the diverse community-based groups who have volunteered and supported them. Imagine working with the DC Police Department and NYPD on a service project where they pack book packs for kids, backpacks, right? With items for kids in underprivileged communities who may have served with Operation Gratitude in supporting them, or a school or a church or some of those other 17,000 community-based groups across the country. And we go back again and again and again through simple acts of kindness and gratitude, but more importantly, this common bond of service that all Americans share.
Is there anything individuals who are watching this can do, just as an individual, to support your organization and the incredible work that you all do?
Well, first, I want to go back to thanking SA for their support for, hundreds of thousands, more than 100,000 servicemen and women. And that's significant. People can support by supporting your campaign and your initiative to help those who serve and to recognize them. But there are really countless opportunities for grateful Americans during a COVID pandemic even to volunteer with Operation Gratitude. And this comes from someone's household where they're looking for a sense of purpose with their kids to get out of this malaise that we have right now, and working and living from home all the time. And they can volunteer in a hands-on way. So on our website, operationgratitude.com, is a virtual volunteerism page. They can knit a scarf or crochet a scarf. They can hand make a paracord bracelet with their families. They can hand write letters of appreciation, to name a few. We actually have greeting cards, blank greeting cards that people can craft, wishing someone a happy birthday, a Merry Christmas, a happy holidays, a happy Father's Day, a happy Mother's Day. And those go in the bottom of our care packages for deployed troops. So if they go to our website and look for virtual volunteerism, they can participate on their own with their families, or how about this? They can go to their kids' school. They can go to their church. They can get into that community-based group and get their entire community involved with Operation Gratitude, just like Carolyn Blaszczyk did when she met that young soldier. She gathered 3 moms around her dining room table, and she started this grassroots movement that has now impacted 3.1 million servicemen and women nationwide, and countless volunteers. When I look at the work that Operation Gratitude does, we do just as much for our volunteers as we do for our recipients, especially during a global pandemic. We have given every American the opportunity to serve too. We have given every American opportunity to give back in a hands-on way. We have given every American a sense of purpose. And that equates to millions and millions of lives changed. And not only the 619,000 heroes, but think about their mothers and their fathers and their wives and their husbands and their kids and their aunts and their uncles and their friends. Because when we comfort a service member deployed overseas, a veteran isolated at home, or a first responder, or a doctor or nurse serving every day, day in and day out, their community, think about what we do for those family and friends, those loved ones. We comfort them too, because they know their loved one is being supported and appreciated. We impacted 619,000 of our nation's heroes during a global pandemic. Multiply that by 10 or 20. And then think about the 1 million volunteers who supported us, and multiply that by their family members, because we lifted their spirits too. So I think for everyone who wants to volunteer with Operation Gratitude, the sky's the limit. And it's as simple as writing a letter, making a bracelet, knitting a scarf, and getting your community involved too. There's so many ways. I give you too much.
It's great.
I'm like sitting here with tears in my eyes.
Thank you. Speaking from everyone at SA, we appreciate everything you're doing. Anything we can do to help you guys in any other way, let us know.
Bye.
Perfect.
Have a great weekend. See you.
Thank you.